Something is happening to you right now that the people who once dismissed you were never supposed to witness, and yet they are watching. Your elevation has begun, and it is not quiet, subtle, or easy to ignore. The very people who looked past you, spoke over you, or decided you weren't enough are now watching something they cannot explain or deny. This isn't a small shift in your circumstances. This is a divine reversal so precise, so deliberate, and so perfectly timed that even you are only beginning to understand the magnitude of what God has set into motion, specifically around your life. In the entire archive of spiritual history, elevation of this nature, public, undeniable, and perfectly targeted, is extraordinarily rare. Most souls who endure rejection either harden into bitterness or dissolve into defeat, and the opportunity for divine vindication closes. For the universe to orchestrate a reversal, this visible, this structured, and this precisely, aimed at restoring honor to a soul that was wrongfully minimized, it requires a convergence of patience, purity, and perseverance that almost no soul sustains completely. Ancient wisdom described this as the reversal event, the moment heaven decides that what was buried in silence must now be displayed before the very witnesses who buried it. Think carefully about a moment, recent, quiet, deeply personal, when you chose not to retaliate. When someone dismissed your worth and you absorbed it without becoming what they accused you of being. When a door closed in your face and instead of forcing it open with anger, you stepped back with dignity. That decision, that specific, private act of restraint and grace, was the moral coordinate heaven was waiting for. It confirmed that your elevation would not corrupt you, that you could be trusted with restoration, that the honor being prepared for you would be carried with humility rather than weaponized with pride. From the moment rejection first touched your life, you were under observation by forces operating on both sides of the spiritual spectrum. Darkness studied your wounds, calculated whether humiliation would break your sense of divine identity, and strategically placed people and circumstances designed to make you feel permanently overlooked. Simultaneously, divine intelligence was recording something else entirely, your response. Every time you chose faith over bitterness, dignity over desperation, and forward movement over collapse, it was logged with perfect precision. Neither side missed a single moment. The question was never whether you would be seen. It was whether you would remain whole enough to receive what being fully seen would bring. There were seasons where remaining intact required everything you had. The colleague who took credit for your contribution while you stayed silent and kept working. The relationship where you poured genuine love into someone who publicly undervalued you, and you still chose grace when the truth came out. The moment an opportunity went to someone less qualified, and you swallowed the injustice without letting it poison your next move. The room where your voice was spoken over, and you didn't shrink permanently. You simply waited. Each of those moments was a structured trial, measuring whether rejection could redirect your identity, and every single time it could not. After reviewing the full record of your responses to rejection, dismissal, and minimization, higher intelligence issued a classification that carries enormous spiritual weight. You were marked as someone whose identity cannot be successfully dismantled by human judgment. That classification is extraordinarily rare, because most souls, however strong, carry at least one wound deep enough for doubt to enter and reroute them. Yours did not yield. The beings assigned to evaluate your readiness for public elevation looked at the complete evidence of your character under pressure and determined that you are not only ready to be elevated, you are incapable of being corrupted by it. At the precise convergence of your final act of dignified restraint and God's perfect timing, something shifted in the divine realm that had direct consequences in yours. The archangels assigned to carry the decree of your restoration stood at full attention. God looked not only at who you had become, but at the full journey that produced this version of you. Every rejection absorbed, every wound transformed, every moment of invisible faithfulness that no human witnessed, but heaven recorded completely. What was observed was not simply a person enduring hardship with patience. What was witnessed was a soul refined by fire, arriving at its appointed moment of undeniable, irrevocable, publicly visible honor. Following that divine observation, a decree of elevation was released into your timeline with permanent authority. The narrative that was written about you by people who misjudged your worth has been officially overridden. The universe is now rewriting your story in real time, and the pen belongs entirely to divine intelligence. Every resource withheld during the rejection season is being redirected toward you with interest. Every relationship that minimized your value is being replaced by connections that recognize and honor your frequency. The decree cannot be reversed by the opinions of those who once doubted you, because it was never issued by human authority. It came from a source they cannot access or appeal. The identity you were assigned by rejection, overlooked, replaceable, not quite enough, was never yours. It was a costume placed on an ancient soul by people whose spiritual vision was too limited to recognize what they were standing in front of. What you actually are is a restoration carrier, a soul whose rise is not merely personal, but prophetic. You entered this lifetime already encoded with the frequency of reversal, specifically designed to demonstrate to every witness in your environment that divine judgment permanently supersedes human dismissal. The rejection was never evidence of your lack. It was the final pressure required to compress you into the diamond you are always destined to become. With the activation of your elevation comes the full clarity of what you are here to demonstrate. Your mission is not revenge against those who dismissed you. It is revelation to everyone watching that God's assessment of a person's worth is the only evaluation that carries permanent authority. You are here to prove, through the visible trajectory of your restored life, that patience is not weakness, that dignity under pressure produces promotion, and that what heaven endorses cannot be permanently buried by human rejection. Every room you now enter, every opportunity now unfolding, every recognition now arriving, it all serves as living proof of a truth the world desperately needs to witness. Because the decree of your elevation is now active, the material dimensions of your life are reorganizing in alignment with divine endorsement. Financial doors that were sealed during your rejection season are opening with unusual speed. People in positions of influence who previously overlooked you are now being divinely prompted to reconsider and return. Creative gifts, professional opportunities, and material resources that were redirected away from you during the trial period are now flowing back through elevated channels. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is the universe fulfilling its obligation to every soul that maintained integrity through the full weight of unjust dismissal and came through without surrendering their identity. As your elevation becomes visible, the people around you are experiencing something they cannot fully articulate. Your rise is doing something to them internally, dismantling their own resignation, challenging their own acceptance of dismissal, quietly suggesting that maybe their rejection was also redirection. You will not need to speak about your journey to produce this effect. Your presence alone, the peace you carry, the confidence now anchored in something deeper than human validation, will awaken a hueco, hunger in others for the same kind of divine endorsement. Your restoration is becoming a living testimony that bypasses skepticism and lands directly in the spirit of everyone positioned to witness your reversal. You are part of a generation of souls whose rejection was never the end of their story. It was the structured beginning of a public restoration that would serve as evidence for thousands of others still enduring their trial season. Across the world right now, souls who were dismissed, overlooked, and written off by limited human judgment are crossing the threshold into their own divine reversal. You are not an isolated case. You are part of a coordinated global elevation of integrity tested souls whose rise will collectively shift the narrative about what rejection truly means. When you find these souls, you will recognize them immediately, and your combined testimonies will become something the world cannot ignore. If this message reached you today, heaven used it as a delivery mechanism for a confirmation your soul has been waiting to receive. You were guided here because your restoration is already in motion, and you needed to hear it named out loud. If you recognize your journey in these words, leave 777 in the comments and let the universe register that you received this message. Share this with someone still sitting in the middle of their rejection season who hasn't yet understood that the dismissal was always preparation. Subscribe so that every message calibrated to your frequency finds you at exactly the right moment. And stay, because your elevation is only just beginning.